Welcome everyone to our Meet Your Passivhaus Trainer session. Today, it's a session where I guess you want to probably know a little bit more about us at Smart Plus Academy, and maybe me in particular as your Passivhaus Trainer, what you can expect from our courses. So I will give you a little bit of an introduction today into what we do, why we do it, maybe also a little bit of a glimpse into our courses already. And then after that, you can ask all your questions. So again, warm welcome everyone to this Meet Your Passivhaus Trainer session. A short introduction. I am Julia, your Passivhaus Trainer. So if you're doing a course with us in the future, you will see more of me. I will be teaching all the modules for the designers and the tradespeople. And I grew up in Germany. I'm a trained architect. I grew up in Germany, actually in the city where Passivhaus was invented. So it was always around me. Only years and years later, I came back to it. So really interesting, I found that. I'm really passionate about this, about Passivhaus, about teaching Passivhaus, about sharing the knowledge that I have. I'm excited to have you all on board. Let's have a look at our little presentation. This presentation is called Passivhaus Education in Australia, and in more particular, Passivhaus Education from us here at Smart Plus Academy. What we want to look at today is a little bit of an introduction into the Passivhaus topic. I'll explain to you a little bit what Passivhaus is. If you haven't heard about it before, that might be very interesting to make an informed decision whether this is something that is for you. And then I will introduce the Passivhaus training provider, which is Smart Plus Academy. Welcome again to our Passivhaus trainer session. And we at Smart Plus Academy, we do the things we do because we want to make our world a better place. We want to empower people to make a difference. We are on a mission to decarbonize the building industry. So that's our background. That's really what we're there for, what we get up for work every day. We're very passionate about this, as you can hopefully tell. How we do it is we inspire and lead with passion and love. And we're also on a mission to make Passivhaus education accessible for everyone. So there's a lot of different courses, a lot of different options, how you can learn. So hopefully everyone will find their own way, how they want to learn Passivhaus with us. The vision, the Smart Plus vision, is a little bit of a background into how buildings evolved now. So we're able to build a shelter that is structurally sound and that protects us from the elements. Yeah, so that's what we're already able to do. What Passivhaus is giving us on top of this is a healthy indoor environment, a comfortable indoor environment, and sustainable buildings. So all of that is coming from Passivhaus, and this is also economical. So you will find out a little bit later in this presentation that Passivhaus can be economical. So all of that we need to add on top to get to a healthy, sustainable, and comfortable building. On top of that, we can already build a shelter that is structurally sound. Now, we want to look further, though. At Smart Plus Academy, we're not stopping there. We're not saying that Passivhaus is the ultimate final goal. We can do better than Passivhaus, but Passivhaus is the first step that needs to be fulfilled before we can go further. And then later we should go further. So once we have tackled the Passivhaus, then our buildings should become energy producers. We should start storing energy, and we should really aim for zero energy buildings and real zero energy buildings. So from the cradle to the grave, so from building it to bringing it down back to nature again, we should be real zero energy buildings. But that's on top of Passivhaus again. And then in the end, we want smart buildings plus energy buildings. So the power stations of the future, that's what our buildings should become. So in the end, we want smart plus buildings. That's where our vision is, and that's where our passion lies. What we at SPA want to achieve for you. So now if I say this, it might sound a little bit funny. We don't want you to build or design Passivhaus. Yeah, we don't want you to just tick another box that is called Passivhaus. What we want for you is we want to empower you to design healthy and sustainable buildings that are affordable. Yeah, so that's what we want you to do. We want you to understand the basics and everything that's behind Passivhaus, so that you can make that right decision for your situation. We want to enable you to make educated decisions and decide if the Passivhaus standard is the right thing for your particular project. Okay, or maybe Passivhaus is not good enough. Maybe you have to go a step further. Or maybe passive house is an overkill, but that is only the case in about 5% of the cases where we have a really ideal design, where we have a really ideal climate. So then passive house could even be an overkill. Most of the times we may have to do a little bit more. Now, what on earth is passive house? So let's have a little bit of a look into that. Introduction into passive house and the passive house standard. So this one here in the background is the very first passive house that's been built by Wolfgang Feist, this bloke here, in Darmstadt in Germany in 1991. So this is over 30 years ago now. This passive house is still standing, still performing. They've done measurements. The air tightness is still good. The performance is still good. So everything's still working as it should. And that's a really good example that passive house can work and can work in a good way and in a future-proof way. Now, I want to explain to you passive house in 30 seconds. And let's see if I can do this. So what is passive house doing? Passive house is giving us healthy, sustainable, and economical buildings. And while the outdoor environment is changing, so that's what's happening here, our outdoor environment is changing, the indoor environment stays consistent at 20 to 25 degrees. So that's passive house in a nutshell. How does passive house achieve this? Passive house achieves this by building a high-performance building envelope, by providing 24/7 fresh air, and by using the free energy harvesting and heat recovery. So that's passive house in a nutshell. Obviously, there's more behind that, and we can learn a lot more and a lot deeper into that. But in a nutshell, that's what passive house is doing. What we want to do and achieve in passive house is efficiency. Efficiency always comes first, making it efficient, energy efficient. That's in the forefront of what passive house wants to do. Now I have a question for you, and maybe you can think about that for a second. What do you think? How many tea lights do we need for a 15 square meter bedroom to make sure that the temperature in that bedroom maintains at the 20 to 25 degrees on the coldest day of the year, no matter where you are in the world and what your coldest day is? Okay, so your coldest day could be, if you live in Germany, that could be minus 10 degrees. If you live in Melbourne, that could be 0 degrees. So on that coldest day of the year, how many tea lights do you need for your 15 square meter bedroom to keep that temperature constant? And the answer to that is we need 5 tea lights to maintain the temperature in that 15 square meter room on the coldest day of your year. It doesn't matter. So despite the location or climate, that's what passive house achieves. It achieves that efficiency. For that, we can now say there's a very minimal amount of energy that we need to maintain comfort. And I like this saying here by Anton Dobrevsky. He says the most sustainable energy is the one that we're not using. Okay, so the most sustainable energy is the one not used. So the first thing we should do is we should be energy efficient, and then we're making the most sustainable choice. Now, I want to make clear that passive house is not just for residential buildings. The word house is might be misleading. Passive house is an international energy standard for any building. Okay, so from tiny houses to high-rise buildings, all of them can be certified passive houses. And it is even easier to achieve passive house for bigger buildings. We have here some examples. Here's a Biosphere off-grid in Italy, 30 square meter tiny home to the passive house standard, and then a high-rise dormitory in the USA, also a certified passive house. And in Europe, passive house developers win big projects because they're more cost-effective. Why are they more cost-effective? Because they have their system down pat. They know what to do. They're using the same details over again. They know their structures. So that's why they're being more cost-effective. Passive house is also good for whole cities. So passive house is starting to be applied for town and city planning. We can do that for residential, student hostels, hotels, kindergartens, offices, laboratories, just to name a few. We have here a few examples. So China is very big in building passive house whole cities. And that's in China, 1.2 million square meters of certified passive house. And here in Germany, in Heidelberg, over 100,000 square meters of built passive house. It's like a whole small city here. So passive house really is comfort with a clear conscience, but they're just passive houses are normal buildings built better. Yeah. the question that always comes, but isn't that a lot more expensive? And we're saying, yeah, there is an additional investment. In Australia, it is about $250 to $750 more per square meter. And that equals between 5 and 20% for residential builds of the cost. Okay, and that can also be as little as 1% for commercial buildings, because bigger buildings are in general easier to certify. So they can be economical. So that's we've got a whole series on finance of passive house available. So if that interests you, then please hop onto those ones. Passive house in Australia, where are we going, or where have we already gone? I want to introduce that to you as well. We have already achieved quite a bit in Australia. So the first new build passive house in Australia was already in 2013, so 10 years ago. And that's a concrete block in South Australia. The first NFIT, so a retrofit building, was also in 2013 in Victoria. And the apartment block was completed in 2017 in New South Wales. Okay, so we see we have already quite a range of buildings realized here in Australia. We also have a university building in 2020 that was in Victoria as well, steel construction. So you also see already that a lot of different construction methods are possible with passive house. Passive house is not limiting you. We are defining the performance. We're not saying which materials should be used. And the first major developer gets involved with passive house in 2021. That's also in Victoria. So see, there are over 50 certified passive houses in Australia already. And we have realized certified passive houses for less than 2,500 per square meter to build. And that's a really good rate. You get a really good, comfortable quality home that is healthy for your clients for as little as $2,500 per square meter to build. Passive house doesn't need to be expensive and can be ideal for social and affordable housing. Why is that? Because with passive house, we have a lot of savings for domestic fuel and power. And that is really important. We can save money with passive house. So passive house savings for space conditioning can be up to 36%, domestic hot water 14%, and the total domestic fuel and power bill can be reduced by half. Okay, so passive house can cut the expenses in half, because a big part of our expenses is our conditioning, and that can be cut a lot. And another big part is the domestic hot water. And that's also something where passive house really acts on. So we can save a lot of money on our power bills with passive house. The other thing that we have done here at SPA, we have looked into the finance, and we said, what is the actual additional financial burden per day if we're going passive house? And we found out that in the first year, the additional daily financial burden is $4.73. That's only in the first year. So what we're doing here is we're saying, if we are having an additional cost for passive house, we're assuming that we need to cover that by an additional mortgage, and to pay that additional mortgage off, this is the cost in the first year. Then in the 10th year, it's coming down to $2.70. In the 19th year, it's no more extra cost. And after the loan is paid off, we have a daily benefit of $15. So you see, it's an ideal investment into the retirement. We have now come across new numbers where we have financial incentive by banks, by the government, where this cost could come down to zero from day one. Okay, so it really is affordable if you look into it a little bit deeper. Now I want to introduce a little bit us, Smart Plus Academy, your passive house training provider. I hope you're all really excited to become a certified passive house professional to lead the building industry, because that really is what you're doing. It still is a small percentage of people that are certified passive house designers or tradies, but they are really starting to lead the industry. So our standard is that you will get the best passive house course ever delivered in Australia, because we always strive to improve. And that's why every course is the best course that we've ever taught. Why are we here? So why are we as Smart Plus Academy here? Is because we care, and because we want you to design and build healthy buildings that are sustainable and affordable. There may be a little bit of confusion on how to do this. And that's why our courses will empower you and untangle all that information that you have on high-performing buildings. Most likely, most people that are coming here to this session, they have already heard about passive house a little bit. They might have some information from different sources. And in our courses, we want to make sure that we puzzle it all together, and that in your mind you say, now I understand how it all comes together and it all makes sense. So the transformation before the course, you want to design and construct sustainable buildings, but not sure how. You're not sure if it's financially feasible, and you're not really sure where to start. So if that's you, then if you jump onto one of our courses, then after the course, it could look like this, that you know how to design and construct sustainable buildings, and you now understand that health is a big driver. You understand and you can see that it works financially. We've got a big part on finance in our courses as well, and that you're totally inspired and you want to act now and hopefully spread that knowledge in your area as well. So if you're deciding to come on board with us, you will get a Smart Plus Academy account. We've got our website here, hub.smartplusacademy.com, and then you can log in, and with your username and password that will be provided to you by our support team, and you will find all the relevant courses and recordings that you have signed up for. So it's really easy. Recordings can be reviewed for a certain amount of time. So if you're missing a lesson, or if you think, oh, that's really interesting, I want to review that, that is what you can do. So if you want to become a certified Passive House designer or consultant, so if you want to take advantage of all the benefits of Passive House, then you really need some kind of training to gain the knowledge. Learning on the go or by yourself is possible. So Passive House has made it their mission to say, okay, all the information is out there. It shouldn't be hidden. Everyone should be able to learn Passive House for free, but it will be a lot easier with the course, because to gather all that information and get all that information from the right sources and puzzle it all together, I think is really challenging. So our course is really good for that. Our on-demand course is our bestseller. What does it mean on demand? So we've got designer courses. Designer courses are for architects, building designers, engineers, anyone who is looking to become a certified Passive House designer. And then we've got tradie courses that is for builders, tradespeople, and it's a little bit of a shorter course. Both of these courses are either in a virtual live structure, so virtual live like we do it now, where I sit in front of a class and I teach it virtually live, but it's all online. Or we have an on-demand version where you can just watch the recordings of the lessons in your own time. So you don't have to attend the class, you do it in your own time, and when you're ready, you attend the exam. We will also have a mobile app coming up soon that is really exciting, but not quite ready yet. So we will let you know when that is ready. So these are our options. As I said before, on demand is you're at your own pace and you take the exam when you're ready. Then our virtual live is our premium support with a teacher. Yeah, you also get 3 exam attempts and a money back guarantee, because we're saying that if you attend the live course and if you listen to our instructions and if you do your homework and if you work with us, then we are convinced that you will do well in the exam. Then we have a step-by-step option where you start your certification 1 module at a time. That is a little bit of a smaller financial commitment because you can buy every module separately and you also can take the exam when you're ready. Now have a little glimpse into our Passive House Designer course. It has a few different modules. So let's have a look at the modules. So first up, we have a course that's called Why Passive House. It's a little bit of a background of where Passive House is coming from, why we're doing all that. Then our first module is the opaque building envelope. So we're learning everything about that. We're learning to calculate the performance of walls, roofs, and floors. Then we will talk about the windows. That's our module 2. Then we will have a module about ventilation. So we'll learn how to design, size, and commission ventilation systems. And I will explain to you in depth all the system parts and how ventilation works. Then we have our module on conditioning. So we learn about heating and cooling and domestic hot water in a passive house. Then we will talk a whole module about economics. So we will really dive deep into that. And our last module is our retrofit. So we will apply all the principles that we've learned onto a retrofit situation. So that's a really nice way to finish the course, because all the principles, we repeat them and we apply them onto a different situation. So that's our modules. Then in our course, if you're taking the course, you will get from us a formula sheet. That's our Smart Plus Advantage. So we have crafted this formula sheet for you to easier understand all the formulas and all the things that you need to learn for the exam and for later on in life as well. So you can keep this formula, you can print it, you can keep it. And the thing is, you can also use it during the exam. because it's an open book exam, so you can use printed things in your exam. And here you can see there's all the formulas explained. We've explained the Passivhaus standard. We are explaining the Passivhaus principles. So everything is nicely presented for you. So here's an example. We're explaining the Passivhaus standard, the energy requirements, and the quality requirements of Passivhaus. So we're going deeply into that. We also have a little house that we have put together to work on during the course. And it's a fictional 2-story residence in Germany. And we've put this together so that it's a bit easier to have some examples. You know, when I have an example of some calculations, we will refer back to this design brief, and it makes it easy to understand. So we have a living room, opens to the sunny side, which is in this case the south side, because we're in Germany. With our virtual live course, we have a certification guarantee. So since we're doing online exams, we actually have a 98% success rate for the designers on their first attempt in the exam. The global success rate lies at 87%. So we're way above that. You can see we've got a really good success rate. Also, our students usually have 15% more points than the global average. So they're doing really well because we're preparing them well, and we're really showing them and supporting them along the way. We have certified, this is actually the updated number, this is actually 360 Passivhaus designers since Daniel started teaching in Australia. So that's an impressive number, and we're very proud of that as well. And this will be your certificate once you have set the exam. You will get a certificate like that from the Passivhaus Institute. Contents are available as recordings, so you can revisit the full content at the time of your convenience. You can see this is the format. So this is the recordings where I do some calculations, and you have the access to the recordings for 6 months. And for more details, you can always visit our website. Now, I also want to say something because we have a limited offer at the moment. So if you see this now and you think, wow, this is really inspiring me, I really want to get into this straight away. We have a great offer at the moment that is our so-called Passivhaus boot camp. We have that on offer at the moment for the designers and for the tradies, depending on where your background is. The boot camp is the Passivhaus course in a shorter time frame. So what it is, you get access to the recording straight away. So if you buy this boot camp today, you get access today until your exam, but the exam date is fixed. So our exam date for the designers is on the 15th of September. Our exam date for the tradies is on the 14th of September. So you get about 3 weeks to learn for this exam on your own, and then you do your exam with us. The advantage of that is, A, you get it done really, really fast, and B, it's our cheapest option for our course. Okay, so if anyone is interested, please reach out to us, or we can discuss it later and give you a bit more information on that. And now, last but not least, I want to just run you through the Certified Tradesperson course. It's very similar to what I said to the designers. You gain your knowledge, it's easier with the course. And we also have these 3 options for the tradies, the same as for the designers, the on-demand, the virtual live, and the step-by-step. The difference between the designers and the tradies is that our course is a bit shorter. So we only have our module 1, that's the opaque building envelope. Our module 2 is windows and ventilation together in one module. Then our module 3 is build-ups, details, and conditioning. And our module 4 is retrofit and certification. So it's a little bit shorter, but tradies also get the formula sheet. It's a little bit shorter. There's a little bit less calculations in it. So it doesn't go as deep into the material, but we're getting a very good background knowledge of Passivhaus as well. Now, these are the 5 Passivhaus principles, as it's also explained on the formula sheet. Yeah, you can read that all up on your formula sheet once you get it. We also have that same certification guarantee, and with the tradies, we even have a better success rate, 99% for tradies. Also, the global success rate is a lot lower, and we have usually 20% more points than the global average. In this case, for the tradies, we've certified over 20% of the English-speaking certified Passivhaus tradesperson via the online exams. So you see, we have a lot of experience. We would be very happy to have you. Also, these contents are available as recordings. You can see here a little bit of an example of what we're teaching, and the access is also for 6 months. And the limited offer, as I said, it applies for the designers and the tradies. So if you're interested now, please reach out to us. Limited time offer. Why is it limited time? Because we have this fixed exam date. I would say you need at least 2 to 3 weeks to go through the whole content. So if you're interested in that, jump on board straight away. That would be your best option, and you get that access straight away if you decide for that today. Thank you for your attention.